Hi, Professor Dr. David Fisher. First of all, we sincerely appreciate your time and willingness to share your knowledge with us. Med Brazil is honored to have you as a speaker in our postgraduate dermatology program. Your expertise and contributions to dermatology and oncology are globally recognized, and we are eager to learn from your experience. To begin, could you share a bit about your professional journey with our Brazilian postgraduate medical students? What inspired you to pursue dermatology, and what have been the defining moments of your career?
Thank you. So first of all, I want to express my gratitude. I'm very honored for the opportunity to speak with you. When you reflect on your own career, you don't think of it as so distinguished. You think about it as one day going to the next day, going to the next day. And for me, that is very much how I would say my career progressed. I never thought that there was some huge leap, but rather I was doing my work each day, and I became interested and excited by certain things. And I hope that that's a message that other people will hear and listen to. I try to share that with my own students, because I don't think you need an earthquake to have some successes in your career. Sometimes you need to be thoughtful, to be creative. You do need energy. You need resilience. You need to be willing to fail and then get up and try again, maybe try a little bit differently. But very often taking small steps is the fastest way to get where you're really trying to go. And I think that's often an inspiring message, and hopefully a message that will give people optimism that they can land where they would like to be in the longer term. So for my own career, my journey that led me to my current position as chair of, I believe, one of the most distinguished departments of dermatology, and for sure one of the oldest departments of dermatology, really was accidental to some extent, because my background is in melanoma oncology. My training is more in oncology, medical oncology, than it is actually in technical dermatology. I'm more comfortable in treating melanoma patients than acne patients. I know that might seem funny in some sense, but in fact, one of the things that I learned is how a leadership position in a department as broad and far-reaching as dermatology almost always involves specialization, and it's very rare that somebody knows everything, and they know everything really at the cutting edge. But I think what's really important is that you care about everything, and you care that there are people who are experts in every domain, and that even if you don't have those experts right around you, you can seek answers for difficult questions and things of that nature. So my own journey came from cancer, my clinical training in internal medicine, and then in oncology. I trained both in pediatric oncology and adult oncology. And as I was doing this, there was a revolution in the treatment for melanoma. And that revolution came from some discoveries, some research discoveries of certain mutations in melanoma patients, in their tumors, which opened the doors to new kinds of treatments. And for the first time, a disease that had about the worst prognosis, among the worst prognosis in all of cancer, suddenly became highly responsive to treatments. And this happened during a relatively short period, within about 10 years or so. Melanoma completely changed in its perception in the world of cancer, in the world of oncology. And I was very fortunate. That was not any skill on my part. It was just lucky that at that phase of my career, I happened to be present. We made some small contributions to this, but it was really the work of many, many people together in academia, in the clinical domain, in the laboratory, and also in industry, in the commercialization, in pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, that made the discoveries of these new drugs, which have made melanoma currently, to a large extent, even metastatic melanoma can be cured close to 50% of the time. 15, 20 years ago, that would not even have been imagined. And now this is actually a major story and a major reality. So coming back to your question, what was my journey? My journey had some coincidences, some accidents, but there was also the good fortune of progress. And I would say this is really perhaps my greatest passion in medicine, is to be able to combine discovery, research in the laboratory, in the clinic, with the routine care that dermatologists will deliver to their patients in the communities. Being at that interface and seeing progress occur is enormously inspiring.
Professor David Fisher, I'm stunned with your speech right now, because I was thinking totally different that you're gonna answer my question. You're just say a lot of words and with a lot of passion, and also showing a part of yourself that probably other people doesn't know about, how you're so much human, people person. Look around about the things about yourself and where you are, taking the thing that you're able to research, and the same time to think about how life could be different, depends whatever you're facing to. And this is really inspiring me because you showed something that I'm very like honored to hear and to understand about how you're patient about your career in dermatology. This is truly inspiring, and your dedication to both research and clinical practice demonstrate the impact that continuous learning and scientific curiosity can have on a physician's career. So really interesting and amazing, your answer. Thank you so much for this. So diving to our other questions, I would like to talk about right now about your focus and research. You already told us about the melanoma, and talk a little bit about the oncology, but your work has significantly advanced our understanding of melanoma and skin biology. In recent years, what areas with your specialty have you been focused on the most? Are there any groundbreaking research projects you are currently involved in that could shape the future of dermatology?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. What I would say is that I think one of the most important questions that I have focused on is that melanoma incidence is increasing, even though we know that sunlight, ultraviolet radiation, is causing a large fraction of melanomas. If you think about all of cancer, the world of cancer, the vast majority of cancers, we have no idea what causes it. It's an accidental event, a rare accidental event, mutations in the cancer cell. In the case of melanoma, we actually know where the mutations are coming from, and it's the sunlight above us. And yet, people feel really good in the sun. They enjoy going out in the sun. And the information that sunlight is associated with melanoma is not new. It's been known for many decades that this is the case. We know that sunscreens have been available for many decades. And yet, if we look at the incidence of melanoma, it has not dropped down dramatically. It has continued to rise, actually. And this is what I think of as a missed prevention opportunity. This should be one of the most preventable cancers, and it's actually one of the cancers that is increasing at the highest rate. It's completely the opposite of what it should be. So we thought about this, and we tried to understand why would that be? And why would it be that intelligent people, good parents, actually on a beautiful Sunday morning say to the kids, let's go to the beach. It's so beautiful outside. Let's go to the beach and sit under the sun, exposing to ultraviolet radiation themselves, their children, their friends. And they know that there's a risk. And they know that it's a climbing risk and a scary risk. So we wondered, and here this is a research project in our lab, we wondered if there might be something else going on that is beyond the rational component of our minds. And what we discovered, I won't go through all the molecular details because it would take me too long, but what we discovered is that when ultraviolet radiation hits our skin and it stimulates the production of pigment, we call it sun tanning, the tanning pathway. Everybody is aware of this. We had studied this earlier in my career in a lot of detail. We discovered a byproduct of the tanning pathway is that ultraviolet radiation was also stimulating the production of a molecule called endorphin. And endorphin was being made in our skin side by side with melanin, the pigment. And when we studied this, we worked in great detail, we realized you cannot tan, you cannot be exposed to ultraviolet radiation without endorphin being produced. What is endorphin? Endorphin is the body's opiate. It's morphine, heroin of our body. It's the natural version that our bodies make that makes us feel good. And we realized, and we did some experiments in mice, that if we gave mice ultraviolet radiation, they actually could become addicted to the ultraviolet radiation. And if we stopped suddenly, they would start having withdrawal symptoms, shaking, and all the type of withdrawal symptoms that a heroin addict would have. And we could study this in a great deal of detail using gene knockouts of endorphin. And again, I will spare you all the details of this, but we discovered that this pathway actually does exist in our bodies, and it is part of evolution. We have evolved over many, many thousands of years to have a response in our skin to produce endorphin and have opiate effects from sunlight. And we believe this largely explains why the behaviors of people are causing continued exposure to ultraviolet radiation. Even intelligent people, good parents, everybody who means to do the right thing, there is actually a behavioral inclination in our evolution that makes us feel good when we do this. So that's kind of the good news, but you might ask, how could evolution lead to the production of a pathway to feel good with ultraviolet radiation when it causes skin cancer? When it causes the most common cancers in man are skin cancers from ultraviolet radiation. How does evolution cause cancer? How is that a good thing? That has to be a bad thing. And so we studied this as well. And what we discovered is that the benefit of feeling good from ultraviolet radiation probably evolved many thousands of years ago to preserve the production of vitamin D in our skin. Ultraviolet radiation, perhaps the only good thing that it does is that it participates in the production of vitamin D. And if you do not have any source of vitamin D from your diet, which would mostly be seafood, if you don't have a source of vitamin D in your diet, pretty much you need either supplements, which today is what we recommend people take, pills of vitamin D if you need it, rather than sunlight. But in evolution, 10,000 years ago, sunlight would help to produce vitamin D. And that could save children, for example, from vitamin D deficiency, which is lethal. It would kill children if they were too deficient in vitamin D. So we think that you could imagine the scenario if you live in a place in the wintertime when there's very, very little sunlight, and maybe you live in a cave where it's dark and it's warmer there, and outside there's sunlight, but there also are animals that might eat you, and and there is sunlight, but you rather stay where it's warm and safe. If you do that, you and your children might die from vitamin D deficiency. But if you go outside and you get a little bit of sunlight and you have the behavior or euphoria, you feel good from that sunlight, it will produce a behavior that saves your species because vitamin D levels will be preserved. It will help to produce vitamin D. I emphasize, and this was something we were able to show in animals, that vitamin D regulates this. In fact, once vitamin D levels are increased, then the euphoria, the feeling good, goes back down again. Our body measures this. It's a feedback loop that controls it. It's a very interesting feedback connection to addiction. And it's perhaps a good explanation for why we would actually feel good. But I have to emphasize, in 2025, we don't recommend ultraviolet radiation to preserve your vitamin D levels, because you can get vitamin D from sunlight, but then you're also getting skin cancer. Or you can get vitamin D for very, very inexpensive with a pill from the supermarket or a pharmacy. It's very cheap, it's very safe, and it's exactly the same vitamin D. And then it will correct your vitamin D level, and you don't have a skin cancer risk. So this is part of the education that we hope in the population to convey, and perhaps with time, this will help to cut into the impact of melanoma. But in the meantime, melanoma therapy continues to improve. The immune system has been harnessed to attack melanoma cells for very interesting reasons. There's a lot of progress in how we can use drugs to make melanoma go away. And I would say this is, not only is it important for melanoma patients, but those lessons have been important for the broad field of cancer therapy. This is now being utilized in other cancers, lung cancer and kidney cancer, a number of other cancers, where the same types of treatments are showing benefit in other cancers. So we think of melanoma leading the way, in a sense, in part because we understand the biology, we understand the molecular features of the tumor, and there have been some great successes. Hopefully these will continue in melanoma and even more for other diseases as well.
Dr. Fisher, that is fascinating, especially because when you start talking about cancer could happen with an outsource like the sunlight. It's not just about genus. This is really interesting because our faculty is in Brazil, that usually the sun is overall all day. We don't have like the shorter days and long days like here in North America. I'm saying here because I'm staying in Toronto. I'm leaving this part right now. And sometimes when we stay here in North America, we have for the winter time, we have the short days. And usually people say, it's just a word, it's not about scientific stuff, but people say, oh, the winter depression, because they say about, as you said, about euphoria, about how they feel with the sun, because they're not exposed with the certain amount of vitamin D, because they are not taking from the sun, but either they're not taking from the pills or for the food they are taking every day. So this is really interesting, and how we could protect ourselves with some new habits. And also, it's not about genus, it's about how you expose your body to. This is
Yes.
really fascinating.
Yes.
So this leads me to our next topic, continuing medical education and how it impacts both professional and financial aspect of physician's career. So at Med Brazil, we believe that ongoing education is a key to medical excellence. Continuing medical education not only enhances clinical knowledge, but can also bring both academic and financial benefits. From your perspective, how do these benefits apply to physicians in the United States? How does lifelong learning impact the professional development and career opportunities of dermatologists in such a competitive healthcare environment?
Yeah, this is a great question. And it's a very important question because not all physicians enjoy the requirements and the rules about having to go through continuing medical education. I remember a funny story where I was studying to take my board's recertification. And it's a little bit embarrassing story because they had some practice questions and then they gave you the correct answer. And then they gave you a publication that would explain where this was published in the literature, why that is the correct answer. And there was one question and I got it wrong on the practice test. And I thought, well, I really know this. I can't believe I got it wrong. And then I looked and they say what the correct answer is. And then they said, what was the publication for it? It was my publication. And I got this question wrong on the test. Actually, I think they got the question wrong, but it doesn't really matter. But it shows you that the process of continued learning to try to benefit yourself after you're finished with school, after you're finished with the early phases of your career, it's a significant challenge. It's not easy, and in some cases, it can be quite even frustrating because it takes a good bit of time. So I think of it for different reasons. One basic reason, probably the most important reason, is simply to remain up to date. You want to be using the current drugs. You want to be using the most up-to-date criteria for diagnostics. You want to be utilizing the best devices. And if you have them, great. If you don't have them, send your patients where it is available for them. You want to be giving your patients the benefit of the best progress that the world has to offer. And that requires that you continue to learn because there is progress happening, whether you're in school or you're not in school. You should be able to bring that to your patients. You owe it to your patients. They are expecting that of you. That is what a patient is asking when they walk into your office. They want you not only to give what you learned up until you were 25 years old or something, but where you are today, exactly what is there for the world to offer them. So I think that is the most important reason. The other dimension is that I believe that physicians are, and especially dermatologists, are outstanding observers. When they see patients and when they see, let's say, an unusual rash or an unusual disease presentation, they wonder sometimes, oh, I saw this another time, or oh, I tried treating it in a certain way, or this patient suggested that they ate broccoli and it went away, or some crazy ideas that come through, and you actually are learning from your patients, from your experiences. And some people call this, they may call this the wisdom of old age. As you are experiencing more and more, the wisdom of experience, that you are actually learning even more than what you were taught from the textbooks and in classes. I think that is not only nice for your patients, but it is actually valuable for progress. I think that many of the most important discoveries that have been made in the research domain came not necessarily from basic scientists who were doing biochemistry experiments or molecular experiments, but it was from a clinical observation. Somebody walked into the office and had some unusual feature. And it was a very perceptive clinician who didn't just think, what's the routine? What's the routine? But they thought, why is this different? What is going on here? And even if they don't know the answer, they didn't let go. They called somebody else, or they asked the patient to see a different doctor, or maybe a different specialty like endocrinology or some other domain to try to get an answer for the sake of the patient. And from this, not uncommonly, new discoveries are born. I would say in my own career, when these kinds of events happen, and it's not every day, it is one of the most exciting, one of the most thrilling opportunities that you have in your professional career, because we think of ourselves as finished learning when you graduate from school, but when you actually discover that you can learn, from your colleagues in that setting, you can learn from your patients, and of course you can learn from your students. It's humbling, but it is also so exciting because you're seeing progress, you're seeing future opportunities. These are my thoughts about why continuing education is so valuable.
Professor, I think I'm more anxious about your lecture than our students right now, because your patient, your excellent point talking about the ability to stay updated and adapt to the new medical advancements is what sets apart great physicians. And the time you said that the first question that I did with you, talking about yourself and your career, you said that you had a good opportunity to see different views, different opportunities. You're lucky sometimes, and now I can understand a little bit more what you said at the time, because is to be updated, to understand that you can learn more from others. You can share knowledge. You can create knowledge. You can be better than you were. It's not just I'm a doctor, I already know everything. No, you keep updating. That's why makes you are one of the most important dermatologists in the world. So this is a really, really honor for us to have you delivering a lecture for our students at Med Brazil. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now dive into other questions that we have. We are truly about your upcoming lecture for our postgraduate dermatology students at Med Brazil. What are your expectations for this session? What key message or insights do you hope to convert to our students? A message from you for them.
So my lecture will be on the subject of skin cancer, and I like to bring a combination of the science from the basics all the way to the clinical and the behavior, even as some of points we already touched on. I want to emphasize for them that it is kind of a multidisciplinary approach to really understanding it. And hopefully that's an approach that also makes it more fun to learn, rather than just memorize, but also when you understand why, for example, melanoma responds one of the best to immune system treatments. What's so special about melanoma with immune system? We will talk about that. And there's a really cool reason for what that is, and many other aspects of this. I want it to be fun. I want it to be interesting. And I guess my final charge is I love difficult questions. We want to hear people with ideas, people with questions who don't agree, perhaps. That's great. This is how progress happens. So these are my thoughts. I'm looking forward to the lecture also myself.
That sounds like a truly enriching session, Professor. Exposure to different medical perspectives is invaluable for our students, and your insights will certainly help bridge the gap between academic knowledge and the real-world application. It's not just about just put like one thing and you start your thing and decorate and just learn this thing and go to the other part, but it's share knowledge, share perspective. Very interesting, very interesting. So speaking of which, let's talk about how medical practice in the US can serve as an inspiration for Brazilian physicians. So medical practice in US is widely recognized for integrating cutting-edge technology, scientific research, and patient-centered care. In your opinion, how can the practical and academic experience in the US inspire and add value to Brazilian doctors participating in Med Brazil's postgraduate program? Are there particular aspects of the US healthcare system that you believe could be adapted to enhance medical practice in Brazil?
Yeah, these are great questions. One of the first things I would say is it's not perfect in the United States either. The medical field is going through some financial challenges across the whole country. Ever since COVID, those times, it has been quite significantly challenged. My own institution and most others in this country are having challenges. On the other hand, the availability and the discovery of new technologies, the application of those to disease, has probably never been more exciting in the history of medicine. The types of highly refined, highly focused methods to analyze what is wrong in different disease conditions, to study the genes, to study the environment, to study the behaviors, the medications, discover new medicines. This is absolutely stunning, and it is continuing to happen. I think that for the Brazilian medical community, there are several ways in which this can be emulated or actually directly benefit. First of all, the advances that are available in the United States are public knowledge. It's very rare that there would be information on how this is done in the United States that is somehow a secret. In fact, one of my favorite features of the American medical system and the way progress happens here is that people first try to publish a paper describing what they've done and what the new technology is. And the first thing that happens when they try to publish it is other peers, other colleagues of theirs review that article and criticize it. They criticize it vigorously, as you can imagine, because it's new and they haven't seen it before. And ultimately, when it does get published, it has been refined and it has usually been, to some extent, perfected. And then it is in the public domain. And in fact, a number of years ago, it actually became a requirement that within 1 year or beyond 1 year, these publications, academic publications of research discoveries, have to be made publicly available for free. And so that information is present. And I think that as long as it is emphasized and as it is treasured in the academic community within Brazil, I believe the information is there. It is available. I actually know I've collaborated with several Brazilian melanoma researchers. I know, unfortunately, there's a lot of melanoma in Brazil, and I've had people come in my lab and we've interacted and collaborated in the past. So I think that the crosstalk of communicating progress in the United States, in Brazil, and actually in the rest of the world is one very nice way that can benefit Brazil and the physicians in Brazil. There definitely are examples where Brazilian physicians or trainees have come to the United States. I mentioned that I've had a few, not in the very recent years, but earlier before COVID. There were several Brazilian medical students or graduate students who did come and worked in my lab for a period of time, and many other labs around. We've had residents in our dermatology residency program at Harvard from there, and I believe around the country as well. And that can be a very special way also. It's obviously difficult, it's expensive, cost of living is different, you're far away from home. All of these are significant challenges. The hardest, of course, is winter is summer, and summer is winter. We're upside down, but these are minor issues. But I think the most important is that we live at a time when communication and information is publicly open and available. And I think that information makes it possible to learn on the shoulders of others. And we certainly do plenty of that in the United States, learning on the shoulders of researchers wherever they are, including Brazil, but also Europe and Asia and Australia and Africa, Israel, all the countries where we do have active collaborations. We can learn, we can grow together as a community that's seeking the common mission of treating our patients better. So I think I commend your program for offering the postgraduate community of physicians the opportunity to continue learning and to continue to grow in a way that will challenge them and hopefully also generate enthusiasm, excitement, because after a while it can be, we need a little rejuvenation to continue with excitement in the way that we felt it when we were in earlier stages of our careers.
That's really fascinating, David Fisher, Professor David Fisher. That's right. I think to make us better is develop ourselves, not just accepting that we are having our position and we have all knowledge of the world, but we are seeking to be better. We can find out new ways to develop our knowledge and our career and facing different styles, because things change every day. Our habits, how we eat, how we expose ourselves to the world. So that's right. So not keeping just for ourselves the knowledge, and share with others, and criticize not for be a critical person, but to change something or make something better. This is totally right. And I believe something about US as this thing. And this is what we would like to do in Med Brazil. Bring such nice people and great people as you and others, and our coordinators from USP and UNIFAS to be the people that can challenge our students, change the medical environment in Brazil, to make better doctors, to treat our population, to treat the patients that we have in Brazil, and make new researchers, new find outs. And that's what we are looking for. Thank you so much. So Now I have two more questions. I know we're having really nice time, but time goes fast. But I still having two more questions about. So the next one is going to be about the role of artificial intelligence in medicine. Nowadays, we're facing a lot of challenges, not just for medicine, for every career or every business. So artificial intelligence is revolution healthcare nowadays, bringing new possibilities for diagnosis, treatments, and patient care. However, it also presents ethical challenges, especially in maintaining a humanized and patient-centered approach. What do you consider the main ethical challenges in integrating AI into dermatology and medicine in general? How can we balance technological advancements with the unreplaceable human aspect of medical practice?
It's a great question. And actually, it's a particularly good question for the field of dermatology. And the reason is that a great deal of dermatology is pattern recognition. The diagnosis in dermatology is very largely a matter of understanding the pattern. And it has been recognized now for a number of years that imaging, digital imaging, and computational approaches to bioinformatics and trying to recognize patterns in a number of areas of dermatology may be one of the best opportunities to use artificial intelligence on the diagnostic piece of dermatology. It's very interesting and something that we discuss in great detail, and yet it has been surprisingly slow to happen. Just as there have been numerous high-quality publications in big journals describing new artificial intelligence algorithms that are able to make diagnoses very accurately. For example, if you have a spot on your skin, is it melanoma or is it not melanoma? Things that were thought to be as good as a dermatologist at a leading medical school. Then they switched from showing the picture to the dermatologist, comparing to showing the picture to the computer. They switched it to showing the picture to the computer, but compared it to the patient with the dermatologist. And now the patient with the dermatologist was better than the computer. So even as progress looked so striking, as they looked closer and closer, it wasn't quite there yet. I believe that eventually the artificial intelligence approaches are going to probably be able to encompass the diagnostic component of what dermatologists are seeing, perhaps even be better than what we're able to do. Perhaps there will be ways of magnifying and seeing what a microscope would see, perhaps without even cutting into the skin. These are some of the research areas that are going on right now. How exciting this will be. However, as you said yourself, who's going to tell the patient? Who's going to cut it out of the patient? Is the computer going to cut it off the patient? Who's going to explain to the patient, this is what you're going to feel? Or if the diagnosis is melanoma, or the diagnosis is very benign, it's nothing to worry about. Who's going to do that? And who's going to answer all the questions that the patient has or the patient's family members have? Who's going to hold the patient's hand if they're crying? Or if they didn't understand and they were confused, how will this occur? So some people in the artificial intelligence field say, oh, no problem. Artificial intelligence will do all of that also. It's just going to be a new generation and a new generation and a new generation that will be a psychologist also, and a doctor, and a diagnostic, and even a surgeon, a robot. So I think we're going to learn a lot more. You know, we will see progress. My hope is that it will allow people to be even better, that we will have the assistance of tools using computational devices that will allow us to be right more often than we already are, and will give us information that is even more accurate than what we already have, so that we can be even better doctors. Not necessarily to be threatened by it, but to embrace it, utilize it, and make it better for our patients.
You're 100% right, Professor. And it is a crucial point because sometimes people are aware about their career, but in the meantime, they also try to replace their knowledge, or they're so into the computer devices and also the AI, they stop develop themselves. They stop learning new things because they are not challenge themselves or think about what they're facing to. They're just taking the AI answer and go to what they need to do or what they should do. And I believe the main point, as you said, is to use as a tool, because the doctor and the physicians, they're there because they have to, how they're gonna explain to the patient, how they are gonna treat their family. And sometimes it's not just about like AI answer. They have aspect that is not quantitatives, but they are qualitatives. So I think it's something more deeper than we can understand right now, and we have to balance both things: AI, AI, and also our develop as a human, to combine those and not be like not be a replacing thing for our careers. So this is a really good point that you talk about. So for the next one and the last one, now let's shift our focus to dermatology specifically. What are the biggest challenges that dermatologists face today?
So I think we feel a number of challenges. Some people would even say they're worried about artificial intelligence. I don't think that that's currently a problem. What I would say is what I feel, and I'm focusing mostly with my own department here. We have what we call administrative burden. Um, a dermatologist can see many patients in a short period of time, and they can do it in a really good way. They can actually diagnose often almost instantly. They can look at it and they recognize the pattern, they know how to treat it, and dermatologists have a very high level of success in recommendations that will be beneficial to their patients. However, after the patient walks out of the room, the dermatologist has all these forms they have to fill out, which includes all the medicines that they were taking and the past medical history and the family history and so many details about the rest of the story around this patient, that if you see a large number of patients in let's say in half a day or one day, you go home at night and you have 3 more hours of work just to catch up. And we call this administrative burden because a lot of that it's administrative work. It's not really medical work. It's a little bit medical work, but not really. It's filling out the forms. It's all on the computer. You're updating all the information. And we are working actually on solutions for this, but it creates a very major burden. And it's exhausting for people who are really good doctors and really care about their patients. And they want everything to be absolutely precise. And so there they are working 11 o'clock at night, midnight, to finish all of these notes. What are some of the solutions? So interestingly, some of the solutions, believe it or not, are artificial intelligence. So there is a program here, a research program, to have a computer listen to the appointment, listen to the doctor and the patient, and hear what was actually happening, what was the conclusion of it, and then write the note, fill out the forms, and have the computer do a draft of what the medical record would have in it. And then the doctor doesn't have to write the whole thing, but they can just review it, correct any mistakes, and this type of a thing. In other words, utilize the technology to make the work a little bit easier for the doctor, make it faster and less of a burden. It's exciting and it's scary at the same time, because if it makes a mistake, it could be horrible. It could be a terrible mistake because it doesn't have the human connection at all. On the other hand, for many things, it might be simple enough that this could work very beautifully. So I think that in different disciplines in our hospital, this is being tested in different domains: primary care medicine, ophthalmology, dermatology. But I see that there will be solutions coming in the future. But in the meantime, I think dermatologists tend to be very tired. They tend to work very hard because they're fast and they're extremely high quality. They're able to do good for their patients, and that's exciting. And there is also, I know it's true here and probably in Brazil as well, there is a huge number of patients who need dermatology care. A long waiting line to get in to see the dermatologist. So you're trying to see more and more and more, and then the work and the burden is growing and growing and growing. So finding solutions to relieve the burden so that the physician does not feel exhausted, but feels the excitement of their work, ultimately that will be the benefit, not only for the physician, but also for the patients themselves.
That's right. That's right. It's taking as a tool, not taking the power of the physician. This is really important, as we talk about when we are talk about the AI solution. Can be like a solution, but at the same time can be like a trick tool that we need to balance. But focus on what is important to help the physicians, help doctors, and not use as a replacement. That's a really good point. And as you said, a lot of advancements, they are happening all over the world, and facing their pain, like our pain as users of our career, especially when we talk about doctors and physicians. We can face a lot of pain about the 3 more hours you usually have to take when you go home and you need to focus on your patient, and you would like to give them more than you could have done when you're having the background and the medications and everything they are taking, but to help them to be more focused on what the patient needs and not taking their time to do like some things that could be done with that tool. So this is really interesting. And one of the reasons we are here in Toronto, our branch Med Brazil, is because we seek of a different parts of healthcare communities and also some hubs in around Toronto, especially from Waterloo. I'm gonna make a visit tomorrow for health hub tomorrow in Waterloo, and they're having a research in hospitals to take some data from the machines in some critical rooms that the people usually stays, and that gonna helps the doctors to take some data and make better decisions. So it's a tool helping the physicians, not a tool making the job. So I think it's going to be a really good thing. So I'm just thinking right now, well, the advantages that we can have in our life and be better. It's not write down, but use something that can help us with our administrative work every day. So it's a really interesting point of view. So Professor Fisher, it has been a privilege to have this insightful conversation with you. And on behalf of Med Brazil and our postgrad students, we are sincerely thank you for sharing your valuable insights. And before we conclude, would you like to share any final thoughts or message with our students?
I also want to express my thanks. It's fun to talk to you. You have very interesting questions, and just to say, I'm looking forward to my lecture with the students, and I think you're all very fortunate to have a program like this supporting your careers as you proceed into the future. It's very special. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much again, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.